Hello, sir.
Yeah, Vijay.
Sir, actually, I'll just give you the background. I had approached the classes only for basic Excel and basic PowerPoint.
Okay.
And they told me that Excel will take about 7 classes for basic, 7, 8, and PowerPoint would take about 7, 8 classes. Then they put forth that, look, we can give you advance also. Once you finish the basic classes, automatically advanced classes will get added. So to be very honest, it has been a long break for me in the working career. But yes, into strategy marketing I have been. But doing all these things, I was not very conversant. So I said, let me start first with basic, and that is the reason I asked you. Like, because they briefed me this.
See,
Because handling these data and all is currently not a part of my job, but yes, uh, going ahead, the all this information is important, but I was primarily looking to understand the Excel basic first, understand how I in the office day to day things I could manage.
okay,
That's why I
have
asked.
you did they guys showed you a document which covers the topics under which comes under the basic, which come under the advanced? Did they show
So
you that document?
when
What
there
topics are
were
covered?
two tutors before you
Uh-huh.
who did one class each, one class I think, but they took some different topics, and after that, after you joined, sir, nothing has been shared.
Nothing has been shared. I have been following or I've been covering those topics which these guys have put up in their list of things which they have asked to cover. There is
Okay,
an
okay,
there is
fine, then
a
I will talk to them.
sure, sure.
Okay, fine,
Uh,
I'll
I
talk to
can
them.
I can send you that document which they had shared with me, and I have tried to keep my syllabus or keep my portion related to those topics itself. And that is
Yeah,
what
so
was
because you were taking
told me.
advance, I did not
No,
interrupt saying that
it's
this is
nothing
not,
called as
because
advanced.
I was given some other impression that I would be first learning the basic 7, 8 classes, and then I'll be doing the advance, and post that I'll be doing the PowerPoint. This is what was briefed to me.
Okay, Vajanti, one thing is that there is nothing, and there is a very thin explanation between advanced and the basic course over here. Most of the
Okay.
topics which we are covering over here is
Huh.
all gets covered in the basic itself. Advanced is
Okay.
the complications which comes into it, the kind of
Oh,
complicated things which make it more and more complex, where you have to use a certain way of doing it. Most of the data analytics part comes in the advanced Excel. Most of your
okay.
macros come into the advanced Excel. Other than that, whatever formulas we learned, the VLOOKUP and index match, or you talk about XLOOKUP, or you talk about the text functions which we learned, we covered, or whatever basic thing, those are the basic things which are required to know in
Okay.
terms of the basic Excel. Okay.
That's
Advanced Excel talks about things where there is a data set. Someone gives you a data and say, okay, analyze this data and give it to me. So how do you do
okay.
that? Now, this is an example which I'm going to cover in this particular session. It's pure example of an advanced Excel data analytics, and this is something which you will face in your real life. Okay. Uh, are you able to see my screen, or did I
Yes,
lose
sir.
you guys? Okay.
Yes, sir. We are able to see. Huh.
Sorry, sorry. All right. So let us start with that, and then probably we can discuss with those guys. And if you want, we can sit down for extra topics if you want to go on that particular level. But then I'll have to know, what exactly you want to cover in those particular things. See, let's discuss on this probably on a Saturday. I'll try to rearrange with whatever things I consider them as a basic level. I'll try to create something on that, maybe a session or a couple of sessions on that, and that should actually put a rest to your concerns in terms of if you think that there is something which you have not been covered in terms of basic. I'll try to cover those things, but I'll just need some extra time, on that. That's that's the basic answer. Let me know
Okay.
if you are able to see my screen now, so we can start the session and I can leave you guys on time. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is a very good example of a proper data set. Now, when we talk about data analytics, we are looking that data can come in all shapes and forms. I have already sent these files to you on the email. I hope you guys have got it. There is a zip file and there is an Excel file along with two Excel files along with it. Uh, One of the Excel file is Power Query example, which I'm covering right now, and then we will also cover it using the zip files which I've sent to you. So just to start over here, this is again a proper uh, record, a proper data set, how a data set looks like. It's like these are your continuous rows and columns which are forming a grid, and they don't have any blank rows or blank columns in between. They are in a very good fashion. Like this guy is having all as a text kind of a number, I mean text kind of a data. This guy has got all the number related data. This is again text, and this is again date related data. Okay, so whenever you have a data which is defined in a very nice and good way, you can see that the every data, every column has got a header. Okay, so the headers are in place, the formatting is in place, the dates are looking nice, the region, text, everything is good. There is no gaps in between columns or rows. Then we can say that this is a proper data set which we can use for our data consumption, which like in your healthy food style, it's always advised that whatever food you eat should be a healthy one, right? Similarly, whatever data you make your machines consume, or you whatever analysis you want to do, you need to make sure that your data is in a healthy state. Only then you will get a very good results or very good output of your data analytics. Okay, so please always check your data before you jump into doing the analysis. You need to spend a lot of time in with your data. I would say 80% of your time should go only in studying your data, the raw data. Once you have understood it completely, 20% of the time goes in cleaning it and doing the analytics and getting the output. That's how the ratio should be. Because in today's world, anyone who has got access to data is a king. Data is the most uh, costliest commodity in today's world. It can go to a very good amount also. If I don't know if you guys know about this, but there are certain markets where your private data is getting sold at a particular price, like any Aadhaar card or anything which you give to any, say you visited a real estate agent and you told them that I want to purchase some flat, and they ask you to fill up a form. You go and fill up that form, you enter your date, name, contact number, you enter what kind of room you're looking out for. Is it 2 BHK or 3 BHK? And then you give all that information and you give it to them. For them, it's a record, but that record gets sold out in a market. Okay, and then you will realize suddenly after you visit a real estate agent, okay, after a week or so, you will start getting a lot of calls from different real estate agents, and they will start telling you that, are you interested in looking for a property? We are calling from so and so property. We came to know that you are interested in property. And then if you think about that pattern, the number of calls which you're receiving after a week, you yourself will be able to understand that your data was hid somewhere. Okay, somebody have had access to your data, and hence people are aware of what are you trying to purchase, and that's why data is the most costliest commodity, and that's the whole agenda. Spend a lot of time in understanding your data, and you will be the king of it. So once this particular data is ready, you can then do a lot of analysis. Now there are different rules to it. If your data is a very bad state, you need to first clean the data and make it into a proper state. Once it's proper state, then you can summarize your data and you can visualize it in different graphs or in different Excel tables or maybe in a pivot table. That's your total your uh, way of implementation. Some people are good with pivots, so they like to draw pivots, and from pivots they make charts. Some people like to summarize data using normal Excel tables. They are good with that particular skill set, so they go with that. So implementation differs, but what important is your data has to be in a proper raw data set. Once it's done, what is new which we are trying to learn over here? Excel says that if you want to do your data analytics, okay, you need to create a particular order, a particular mechanism, a particular way. There should be something which should guide you from step one to step X of how you source your data and then how you visualize it. Okay, there has to be a particular order, a particular way, and that's where Excel came up with the concept of Power Query. Okay, Power Query is is triggered whenever you're trying to source data externally from the Excel. Okay, uh, so for those people who have access to Excel 2016, you may see this particular, sorry, 2016, you may see this particular icon under the date data ribbon. You will see get and transform data section, and these are different ways in which you can pick up your data from different sources. Okay, those who don't have 2016 have older versions of Excel, you may see under the data there is a small section called get and transform data, which also covers almost all the icons which you see over here. It just the way at looking at these things. Okay, here it's been given some special praise. Here they have been accommodated into a single section. Okay, so that's the only difference over here. So let's try to see, this is the end result which we'll get into, but let's look at what exactly happens over here. So you may see this is all glitter and everything, all showing up with nice fancy background color and everything. But this is not an Excel table. If there was an Excel table, you would see on the top a particular icon or a particular ribbon called as table or table analysis. Okay, that is a special table which comes, a special ribbon which comes whenever you are accessing any Excel table. But this is not an Excel table, this is just a normal Excel range over here. And if you look at this data is divided in two parts. This is part two. Okay, I'm going to name it as part two. Okay, this will come later on into our analysis, and this is part one. Okay, this will come as part one. So we are looking at part one. We are saying that there is this description, there is this amount. Okay, the description is in a very weird way. It seems to be some kind of a product called Carlota first coming up, and then there's a space, there is a forward slash, then there is a space. Then it seems that in between there is a date over there which says 5th of May 2016. And then again, that same pattern which we saw after Carlota, it appears with a space, a forward slash, a space, and then a west. Similarly, you can see there is south, there is east. So it seems there are these regions. And in this region, on this date, a product was sold with the amount as 485. Okay, so that's what I was able to comprehend by looking at this data. Do you guys also visualize it in the same way, or do you guys have a different way of looking at this? Anyone? Are you guys still there, or I lost you guys?
No, sir, we are there.
क्या हुआ सब बाउंस से जा रहा है आप लोग को?
नहीं
Okay. Uh, Tell me, आपको real life में ऐसा कभी data मिला है? Have you ever seen this data in this particular format?
Oh.
No, right?
Hmm.
See, in real life, your data is trying to, it's too large. You know, the data is so large that they cannot send it in a very good looking Excel file. They will club this field as much as possible, and then they will try to give you the relevant data along with, and this is called, usually called as a CSV style of sending data, where you merge certain attributes together into a single cell, and then you send this data over the internet or over a high speed network. Okay, so in real life, this is what you will face over here. So this is in a format which cannot be consumed directly. You will have to do certain kind of cleaning activity on this, and maybe you may have to transform this data into a new way of looking at this particular thing. So um, shall we start with how do we do with this particular thing? Um, any ideas? Anyone wants to pitch in? How do we go with this particular thing? Has anyone seen this kind of analysis happening somewhere?
Hmm.
No, right? Okay. So what I will do is I will just copy this data from this particular location, and I'll just keep it into this particular section. I'll paste it over here, just a normal paste. Okay. Now look at the fun, what we are trying to do. So we know that we have kept this Excel over here, this data over here on the X2 tab. Okay. I will go and say in the data tab. Now, please understand, data tab is the only tab which you will be using whenever you're doing data analytics. Okay. All of your major concerns are taken care by the Excel in the data ribbon itself. The data ribbon is the most powerful ribbon, and those people who have spent a lot of time with Excel, they always prefer to keep the data ribbon tab open on the Excel window by default. Okay, because most of the time they have to deal with different kind of data. So here is the data tab on the Excel. Here is different type of get and transform data. So I'm trying to get data from different sources. Either I can go and fetch it from a CSV or text file. Either I can go and fetch it from a web, from a URL. Either I can go and fetch it from an Excel table, or I can go and exit from a existing connection. Connections are a bit complicated. I won't go there. But all these things are also clubbed over here into the get data this drop down. Here again, you can go from a file. Here it asks you which file are you looking out for: workbook, text file, CSV, XML, JSON, or from a folder, or you're looking out from other sources like a web, a Microsoft query, or these are all different query languages or databases. Okay. So what we will do is we know that this table is basically in an Excel table or a range. Okay. So we have the best particular thing which will work for us is from the table or from the range. So if I click on this, first of all, it understands that this particular range which I have is not an Excel table. So it's now by default creating it into an Excel table. Now, if you remember, we learned this. How do you create a table? By using Control T. Okay. So it's again triggering the same thing. It's picking up the range on its own, and it says that my table has headers. I've checked this particular thing because I do have headers over here, and I click on OK. The first thing it does, it converts this into an Excel table. Once the Excel table is created, it then opens up something called as a new window for you, which is called Power Query Editor. Okay. Please, 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 my suggestion to you is that if you want to have a good career of a data scientist, of that of a good data analyst, please make this Power Query Editor as your best friend, because this Power Query Editor will be again faced when you go and use something called as a Power BI. And going forward, Excel is going to use Power Query Editor as its only tool for doing any kind of data analytics. So if you want to stick with Excel for a very long time, please try to grab or try to make this Power Query Editor as your best friend. Try to spend as much time as possible. This is the most powerful engine which we have ever witnessed. What it does, it whatever table I had created over here at the back end, that entire table is picked up and brought into this query editor. Query editor means I can go and manipulate the query. I can go and manipulate my data into an engine which is called as a Power Query Editor. This is basically an engine. And whatever steps I keep on doing, these steps are getting registered over here, applied step. So here was a source. From where did I pick up this particular thing? From the current workbook. That is the workbook which is open from the background. And I picked up this from a table name called as table one. Okay. So here when the table was created, it gave a name to it called table one. So this is what the source is. Now in the source, there are certain things which have changed. What I've done is here both these things were basically having the string as well as the number and everything. Okay. So here it identifies what exactly is the data type within each column. So in the first column, it understands it has got a string that is a text name called Carlota. It also has a date. It also has a string again called a West. So in this case, it gives it ABC icon. ABC stands for string. It means for text type data. And whenever it says only numbers, it gave it a particular number format called 123, indicating that the data type for this particular column is 123. So what I do now is that I need to break this column into different parts so that I can segregate them in such a way that my first column should have all the product names, second column should have all the dates, the third column should have all the regions over here. Okay, how do I do this? Within the Power Query Editor under the Home tab, okay, you will see refresh, you will see all these choose column, remove column, you can drop a column, you can drop the rows, or you can add new rows. Here is something called a split column. So when you click on split column, it asks you how do you want to split a column. So I'm going to use something called as a delimiter. Delimiter is a term used for a pattern which you see in your string. In our case, the pattern over here is that there is a space, then there is a forward slash, and then there is a space. Now, if that pattern is picked up, you can see Carlota was the first entry, and then there was a pattern called a space slash forward slash, and then a space. Then there was a date, then again there was a space, a forward slash, and again a space. And then the region appeared called West. So there is a pattern over here. If I pick up this pattern and if I say to Excel that wherever you see this pattern, you break that data into a column. Okay. So that's how I'm trying to educate this Power Query editor about how they can break this single column into three different columns. So I will say split this column by using a delimiter. Now it is going to ask me what is a delimiter. By default, it assumes should I use the delimiter as a space, or should I use colon, should I use comma, equal sign. You can use any of them if your data contains that particular thing. But in my data, I know that I can use custom. That means I've made a special kind of a pattern, which is a space, then there's a forward slash, then there is a space. And I will say split at each occurrence of the delimiter. So once I do this and I click on OK, you will see, wow, look at that. The entire data is split into the first column, which contains now only the name of my products. The second column is basically containing all the dates over here. And the third column is containing all the regions over here. And the fourth column, as usual, is all the amount. Okay, that's how you split your column into different columns, segregate them. Now, what is the next thing? What do you think? Now, each and every step which we are doing over here, which we have split this particular thing, is getting registered over here. Okay, you can see the applied step, they're getting registered over here. If you want to go back to the first way, this is where how the source data was picked up. Then it identified the data type for both these columns. Then we use the delimiter and we segregated them into different columns. Once we segregated them, Excel by default went ahead and tried to identify what kind of data type is contained in each column. Now, if you see, the dates are on the left hand side over here. Now, you see the change data type contains that this is all right hand side. It's made with a proper date format. Earlier, it was identified as a text string. This one was a text. This one was a text. This one was a number. But in the change type one, it identified this as a text, this as a date. You can see here the calendar. You can see again over here it's a text and this as a number. Any questions so far on this?
No, sir.
Rashmi, any
No.
questions from your side?
No.
Okay. So once we are done with this, we can go and we can change this description name. We can make this as product as my new name. So let me make it product name. I can give a good meaningful name to it called date. I can give it a good meaningful name over here called region. And I can go and give this as a name called sales. Okay. Now all this is fine. The sales is still a number, but I want it like a decimal, like a currency. So I can go and I can right click on it and I can say instead of this number, I can change this data type from a whole number. So currently it's a whole number because it's 1 to 3, it doesn't have any decimals. I can change it to a currency over here. The moment I make it currency, it shows a dollar sign over there and it shows a decimal placing also over here of 2 places. So once this is done, I'm done with most of my data formatting, most of my data this thing distribution. So I can now just say, let's close and load. We have performed all these steps from source. We have picked up the source, then we changed its data type. We put a delimiter. We then rename the columns, and then we change certain columns to a currency type. And now we are done with this. We can just say close and load. The moment we do this, you will see a new Excel sheet called table one created with the proper name format, with the product name, with the date, with the region, and with the sales, and having a currency uploaded over here. Now, right now it shows 481 rows were loaded. So what we can do now further is we can summarize this data using a pivot table. So on the top, you can see the summarize with table within the table design. So I just click on this. It's picking up the whole table name over here, which is table 1 underscore 2. And I can do it in the existing worksheet. Say I can say, let's do it over here. And then I click on OK. And now it shows me the pivot structure over here. Now what I can do is I can just drag this into a date. So here you can see April, May, June, July. All the dates are appearing over here. Okay. So what I can do is I can just drop this date. I can say I don't want this date. I can remove the field. I just want the months over here. and then I want the product name following that. Now the product name are not showing up over here because these are under the plus sign. So what I can do is I can right click on it. I can say expand this functionality, expand the entire field. And once you do that, you can see every month the product name are appearing in the right fashion. And now all you need to do is put your sales value over here, and you can also drag your regions into a column. It will split the entire region or the entire value into different regions. And for the sales, you can go and you can say value fields, go to the number format, change it into a proper currency number format. So it just going to take some time to come up with this name number format. It's just uh, freezing at this moment. Are you able to see my file or is it freezing for you guys also?
No, sir, we can see.
Okay. So let's wait for this format data cells to come. I think it's just the file is a bit heavy, so it's showing a lot of time over here. Okay, so it has come over here. I can make this currency. I can click on OK. Again, click on OK, and that's how my pivot is created. I'll just go into design and say show it in a tabular form. So it's showing all the months, all the product names, all the regions over here. It's split this entire thing. So you can see a data which was sent to you in this format, in this particular format. You were able to pick up this data and you were able to segregate this into uh, a good looking Excel table. And then you were able to easily summarize this data. And this summary you can also use using charts, what we learned yesterday. We can create a pivot chart. We can show a line graph or maybe a column graph or a bar graph. We can do a variety of things with this. We can just click on OK, and there's a chart which has appeared over here, which also explains the entire thing about these different products for each of the months. So that's how you do the data analytics of any data which has come to you in different shape and format. So any questions on this so far?
Sir, I had a question. Now there is a pattern here of name, date, and region. In case there is no pattern, then you need to arrange it to a pattern and then do it.
See, if you don't see a pattern now, for example, have you received those zip files which are
Yeah,
sent?
I have received some files, but I haven't opened it.
Okay. So usually what happens is whenever you get this data, so that's why I told you that you need to spend a time in looking at this data, the raw data which gets sent to you. Okay. If you don't see a pattern, then uh, if it's a CSV file, there has to be pattern. Either they have put a space, okay, as your delimiter. That is the maximum time. 95% of the time people put a space as your delimiter. So they may say that, okay, in this data there is a space is your delimiter, because most of the time space you cannot see it. It's just a blank space over there. So that becomes your delimiter. Sometimes some people put comma as your delimiter. So comma is a famous delimiter again, which is used. So 95% of the time, either comma will be there or there will be a space. If none of them, then some people, I think these are like data scientist people. They try to use this thing called pipe. Do you know this icon, pipe? It appears just above the enter button on your keyboard. Okay, that is called as a pipe. They most of the people use this pipe. Some people may use a particular pattern, like the one which I used was a space, a forward slash, and then a space again. So this makes a good pattern to make people understand that okay, there's a space, there's a forward slash, and then there's a space again. So it's a 3 character space. But most of the people go for one single character. Either they will go for a blank space, or they will go with a comma, or they will pick up any one symbol as a delimiter. And most of the time they pick up this particular thing as a, what do you see, a pipe. And sometimes there is also tab, this tab which we use in the keyboard, that is also picked up as a delimiter most of the time. So if there is a pattern, the when you go into this Excel table mode, when you try to go into this Power Query mode, okay, the Power Query itself picks up this particular pattern on its own. If you see this particular thing, if I open this Power Query again, and if I go to the source data, when we were looking at loading this particular data itself into this, it itself understands what is the pattern over here. Let me show you another quick example on this. If this is a data, right? And what I do now is I go and I can go into data tab, and then I can use text to columns over here. Okay, this text to column may not work over here because some limitations over here. So I'm going to use this over here, Alt CA. Okay. Now in this text column, if I go and I say text column, okay, sorry, I can use this. So I click on this. It's asking for a delimiter, right? Delimited. So I say next. So it by default it says that okay, I can see a tab, but is this tab going to give me any help on this? So what I can do is I can just look at my data. Okay, what is working? Is a space working? Okay, so I can see the when the space comes after the space is taken as a delimiter, I can still see the forward slash still appearing as an extra column over here. I can do with this. There is no harm in doing it. I can just say, okay, click on next and click on finish. What happens is, this is how the data will look like. It has segregated that into uh, the product name. It has given an extra column over here, which I can delete over here. Then it gave me a date column, and then it gave me another extra column over here of the forward slash. I can delete that also. And that's how I have segregated my data into these different columns. And you have to do some trial and error, to look at what is a pattern which is looking into your data. I hope it helps you to understand this pattern thing.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. I think we have less than 2 minutes to end this session. I'm going to end this session today because you guys want to enjoy the rest of the evening. So I don't want to spoil anything on that. So you guys enjoy, and probably we will meet up on Monday, or sorry, on Saturday. Same time, 3 p.m. Is that fine with you guys?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, sure. And Vajanti, you can talk to those people and let me know what are they saying. And
Okay.
if there is anything which is required further to be added into this particular thing, I can surely do that. No issues with that.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sure,
Thank you
sir.
for your time. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, guys.
Bye.